Thanks for staying with us on NTA Weekend File. Land is no doubt the most important factor in achieving food security in any society. Access to this all-important resource is gradually becoming a topical agricultural issue. In this report, Mohammed Hamza Sheikh examines this issue as it affects the food security program of the country.
Large-scale acquisition of land, though not new to Nigeria, became a phenomenon in the country with the arrival of white farmers from Zimbabwe in 2004, following their eviction from farmlands in their own country. Each of the Zimbabwean farmers was given 1,000 hectares of land by the Kwara state government on a 25-year renewable lease in Shonga, the hub of Kwara's commercial agricultural project. According to the Kwara state government, large-scale farming has increased food security, brought new skills to local farmers, opened up employment opportunities, improved facilities, and encouraged the awakening of new agricultural industries. No doubt, greater investment in land can engender macro-level benefits in form of GDP growth and improved state revenues, ultimately raising living standards. This is because investors bring in capital, technology, know-how, and access to market, which stimulate economic development in rural communities. However, what makes land acquisition a phenomenon is the paradox and contrast manifest in it, as most land investment deals carry with them opportunities, challenges, and risks. Most disturbingly, perhaps, large-scale acquisition of land displaces local people from access to land resources and therefore poses a threat to their livelihood. Again, due to lack of transparency in negotiations over land deals, there is a general belief that land negotiations and agreements are often not in the best interest of the public, since host communities are most times not involved in the planning, approval, or establishment of large-scale agricultural projects. Certainly, large-scale acquisition of land, local or foreign, and whether in form of purchase or lease, has socio-economic implications, particularly on small-scale farmers of the host communities, thus posing a threat to food security program of the nation in general. In Abuja, I am Mohammed Hamza Sheikh.
As the federal government adopts various strategies to meet the challenges of food security, stakeholders in the agro-enterprises say making land accessible to smallholder farmers will enhance agricultural production. Tunde Aroshafe in Ibadan has the report.
Analysts in the agricultural sector say land is one of the major resources for production and is key to meaningful agricultural activities.
Land is very important because without land, you cannot grow crops, you cannot rear livestock, you cannot even do fishery, you cannot do any other thing. Even the processing has to be done on land, and therefore land is critical and key to food security.
In recent times, there has been a stiff competition for the available land as a result of the growing population and for industrialization, with small-scale farmers being at a disadvantaged position. The consequence, in the views of analysts, is food insecurity for the growing population.
Economic problem that we have presently. Because for those who own land, they want to get the maximum benefit from such land. Of course, is the issue that bring more money to them, that will be paramount to them.
The situation is further compounded by the age-long shifting cultivation practice associated with small-scale farmers, which could no longer support sustainable agricultural development.
Land, of course, is the basis of everything, and you see that despite, say, what's called modern agricultural techniques, the surface of land is reducing. Yeah, so modern agriculture sometimes comes with techniques that do degrade the soil, that promote erosion.
Stakeholders in the agro sector believe it is high time for a comprehensive review of the existing policy on land use, with the poor resource farmers as focal point to ensure food security.
Government really must make sure that in making land available for farmers, they are sure that is agreeable with the local tradition, the local culture, the local environment where they are working.
Of most significance is the need for all the states to emulate those that are acquiring land on behalf of their farmers to ensure accessibility to land for agricultural purposes. From Ibadan, Tunde Arowoshafe.
Smallholder farmers in the southeast have continued to be one of the major suppliers of the food needs of the nation. However, difficulty in accessing arable lands for farming is one of their major challenges. Susan Ozemina reports on the situation in the zone.
In Enugu State, farmers complain that land leasing and transfer is cumbersome and expensive beyond the reach of peasants. As a result, many of them engage in private arrangements with landowners who most often rip them off their proceeds. The process of assessing farmland sometimes lingers until late into the rainy season, leading to late planting and resultant low yields. Another challenge is the dedication of arable land to deities in some communities.
Due to the traditional attachment for the land ownership, so it is not easy for everybody to get land, especially when you don't have enough finance to sponsor to do the requirement.
Admitting that land tenure system is a challenge to agriculture, the State Commissioner for Lands, Mr. Albert Edoga, said the Enugu State government has taken some measures to complement the efforts of smallholder farmers in food production.
We integrate the landowners into our farming system. So we have what we call the state mother farm, which is now situated at Zagu local government.
From Umahia, Richard Okasi reports that smallholder farmers pay between 3,000 to 5,000 naira per portion of land, depending on the location and size of the land to enable them cultivate. The farmers, who are always not sure of yield from such land, however, said that at times they make up with the firewoods from the land they take home for sale.
When we ask people if there is people who owns land so that you will hire.
Do go for pledge at least 1 year or 2 years.
Another problem the smallholder farmers usually face is how to preserve crops harvested from the farms and appeal to government to make fertilizer available and other farm implements at affordable costs. From Aba, Udogo Kono reports that the farmland in the area runs along the bank of Aba River and the fertile Bende land on the bank of Igwe River for producing rice and cassava for subsistence.
Within this our community or within this area, no one person can have so much acres of land.
From Abakaliki, Udochukwu reports that in the rural areas of Ebonyi State, farmland is not a problem. Rather, what they worry about is microcredit to finance their agricultural activities. Dr. Emmanuel Echiago is Ebonyi State Commissioner for Agriculture.
One way of making more land available is through intensification. What I mean by that is that if we can have a number of workable irrigation schemes, a given piece of land can be used to produce more than 2-3 times a year.
The Commissioner for Lands and Survey, Jonah Ewa, says government encourages small-scale farmers to ensure food security in the state.
The government encourages small-scale farmers to farm on the government reserved area, especially the agricultural zone.
Susan Ozemina, NTA News.
More on access to land and food security after these messages. Glad to have you back on NTA Weekend File. I'm moving ahead now. I'm being joined by Ken Ukoha, Coordinator of Voices for Food Security, to discuss access to land and food security. You're welcome to the program, Ken.
Thank you very much.
Now, Ken, what is the food security situation in Nigeria?
Yeah, the food security situation in Nigeria is something that the farmers and every other stakeholder on agriculture have been so pertinent about, given the fact that we are not and we cannot be said to be food secured at this time as a nation. And that's why a lot of people are calling on more investments on agriculture. A lot of people are saying there are many things that are inhibiting the flow of agriculture and then the status of this sector, which in any case provides up to about 41% of the GDP of the country. But unfortunately, a lot of issues that constrain food security in Nigeria are still there, and in fact are getting more enlarged by the days.
You have talked about investment, but how does access to land affect small-scale farming?
This is one investment that is perhaps a prerequisite, I will use that word, a prerequisite for every farmer, because whether it is farming, whether it is livestock rearing, whether it is fishing, whether it is anything, even in terms of production, in terms of agro-produce, all these happen on the land. There is no way you can remove land from there, and this is why access to land is very paramount as far as agriculture is concerned. Now,
okay, you have put it rightly.
Yeah.
Land is a crucial factor for agriculture. If people show reservation on large-scale land investments, how long is Nigeria going to continue with subsistence farming?
I personally, I am not. I think I cannot canvass for commercial agriculture as it is today. But I also think that if you look at the Nigerian society, if you look at the Nigerian population, where you have about 90% of the farmers as small holders, then you ask yourself, what about the production capacity that we have? Everything about food and food security that you mentioned earlier have always been leaning on these small holders that contribute to up to 90%. Now, which means that only 10% of our food production, only 10% of these is produced by commercial agriculture. Therefore, for me also, I've argued that if you look at this 10%, most of the food import that we have take a greater chunk of the remaining 10%. Therefore, the subsistence agriculture has a very big and gigantic area that it is taking, accommodating on national agricultural discourse.
So in other words, you're saying that the subsistence agriculture should be strengthened?
It has to be strengthened. And that's why some of us have said, look, the investments that the government has been putting up on agriculture, on subsistence agriculture, is not there at all. It's not getting there. Take, for instance, the 200 billion the 200 billion naira that was set aside for agriculture investment. And you have only about 20% set aside for subsistence agriculture. It doesn't help at all when you compare that 90% is being produced by of our food is being produced by this subsistence sector. It doesn't strike a balance at all in any way.
Yes, earlier we did talk about the access to land and how it affects small-scale farming. Let us look at the area of the lack of the title for land owned by smallholder farmers being the bane of any progress in the agricultural production. What is the way forward?
Now, before I get into that, I think it is important for us to also understand where we're heading to. I mean, where we're coming from. Pre-independence, we had, the colonial times when, all lands were in the hands of the British, colonial masters. And then after independence, you had, in those days in northern Nigeria, 1962 land tenure system, land tenure law. Then we gradually moved on to about 1977, when we now had a committee of the minorities that brought up this issue of let us look at what Northern Nigeria has been doing, which has been working for them. Can we adopt that into a kind of decree? And that's how the decree, the Land Use Decree then, as it were, came about. And here we have been looking at government as the real, if you like, the depositors of land, where the governor has the powers are vested in the hands of the governor, and
in essence, how can you farm on a land that probably tomorrow the owner says he wants his land back, that actually affects the
smallholder, and that is why you can't. I mean, in places like, I look at the documentary that you had, and I looked at in the southeast, for instance, where you have shortage of land. And the people are there. There are people, energetic people. There are people who are enterprising. They want to farm, but the lands are not there. And these are places. There are places that have very beautiful land, but then the lands are so short. Even to build houses, you can't even find. I mean, the cost of getting lands are so high that the small-scale farmer cannot even have access to. So
what is the way forward?
The way forward is that we're happy that the new administration and good luck, Jonathan's administration has come back through the farmers' vote. I must say this, and we are looking up to him. That I think it's important that what he had with the then president, the former president, the late Yaradua, the issue of trying to review, amend the Land Use Act. We're looking towards that.
At a favorable
legislation regime, a favorable legal regime that will bring about reviewing that particular Land Use Act and then bringing them access to land to the farmers very clearly.
Okay, land, especially traditionally, has been described as a dead capital. How can the average farmer benefit from this?
The average farmer can only benefit from land if if the government, all right, makes land as an investment that is very essential, investment that is so essential to to agriculture. And then if government can also see that everything we're talking about agriculture is centered on land. And if you look at what is happening today, where you have I listened to the documentary, and I see lands, great acres of land being acquired by foreign governments, by foreign people, and all that. And you look at some of these small-scale farmers are being, sent out. That's my word, sent out from their customary rights. Okay, so government should begin to look at how to return lands to their real owners. And when that is done, you will see that access to land will bring about food security and sovereignty in this country.
Thank you very much, Ken.
You're welcome.
Thanks for being with us on the program. Still ahead, a look into the world of sports. And sports now. The 3 slots out of 4 for Africa at this year's FIFA Under-20 World Youth Championship in Colombia have been booked by Mali, Egypt and Cameroon, as Nigeria Flying Eagles struggle alongside Gambia and Ghana on Sunday for the last ticket at South Africa 2011. Paul Ogazi has more in our sports update.
The Eagles of Mali, the first team to pick the ticket for this year's FIFA Under-20 Championship and semi-final of South Africa 2011, ended their last group game, sharing points with Lesotho, as the match ended 1 goal apiece. In another encounter, the young Pharaohs of Egypt sent South Africa packing by a lone goal. Mali tops Group A with 7 points. The situation is dicey in Group B. Nigeria's Flying Eagles, the Black Satellites of Ghana and Scorpions of Gambia battle to know who joins Cameroon. Amanzi Marcos in South Africa reports that the Flying Eagles coach, John Obu, says his team will not disappoint. NTA Network Sports Studios will link up with South Africa 2011 at 10:30 in the morning. Still on football, Etoile du Sahel of Tunisia did not turn up for this weekend's Confederation Cup match against Kaduna United. The team cited security fears. However, the continent's football ruling body CAF is meeting on the next line of action. And in golf, Luke Donald of England is eyeing the number 1 position. The world number 3 will claim the top spot if he wins the heritage event of the US PGA Tour on Sunday, where top seeds Martin Kaymer and Lee Westwood are absent. Donald leads at the moment with 1 shot at the halfway stage. That's Sports Update. I am Paul Ogaji.
Let's take a quick look at the weather picture across the country. And that's it on NTA Weekend File. Thanks for watching and good night.